Well, that was race one just a little earlier this afternoon. As you could see, fast and furious, and I think the paperwork's been hell in the Ford camp since. Now, you join us live at Oulton Park now for race two. This is the longer feature race, which includes pit stops. Now, as we saw there in race one, really Anthony Reid and Gabriele Tarquini were the class of the field. They disappeared off from everybody else. Now the tables have been turned a bit because old Tarquini over here has got pole position. Now, Gabriele, you're in pole position, but to be really blunt, we've seen you take off from pole before and fall off on the first lap. We've got to keep it neat, yeah?
Yeah, it's sure that it's the best place to be before the start, and I need just to take a start like in the first race. Wasn't really bad, so to save my leader and to continue.
And a nice, cool, calm opening lap.
Yeah, it's sure. With very cold tire where we use without warmer, it's really difficult to control the car. Sometimes you lock, sometimes you have oversteering.
Well, you're really quick. Great to have you on the front row. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Cheers. Now, the man he has to beat, the man that's right behind him, is Anthony Reid. In the Ford, out of the way. So here comes Anthony Reid in the Ford. Now, last time around, you were ahead of Gabriele Tarquini. You were both really quick. What's the strategy going to be? Because you're not vying with the championship with him.
Well, I'm not, but, you know, I've already acquired 40 kilos of ballast. Whatever happens now, I'm going to carry 40 kilos of ballast at Silverstone, so I've got to make this second race work for me. I've got to score as many points as I can.
Win or bust or prudence?
Bit of prudence, but if I think I might have the pace to win. I don't see why not. I was fairly comfortable in that first race.
Well, congratulations. I can tell you, Anthony Reid is now our championship leader, courtesy of that fabulous race one win, and he is ahead of Alain Menu. Now, lots of damage inflicted to Rickard Rydell's car. By the way, here's Vincent Rademacher in the Vauxhall as we pass him. He's having a very good run, pardon my back. Now, Rickard Rydell had that great big crash with Alain Menu on the start line. Now, just have a look at the work that they've done on this car. It wrecked the front suspension, wrecked the rear suspension. You couldn't see. Brand new wing, all new front suspension under there, a new front bumper as well, new doors, excuse me, guys, new rear door. All there is just the trace of the scrape where he hit the pit wall, and that's new suspension under the rear as well. These guys have been as busy as you like in the last couple of hours. James Thompson in the Honda, getting ready. He's a very good starter on row 4. Alain Menu is in the Ford, and he's sitting in there ready to rock, so we won't go and interrupt him now. Although, interestingly, he said before the last race he didn't want to finish on the podium and pick up ballast for the last race. So if that's the case, we might see Alain actually playing a little bit cute and hanging back and staying off the podium for this race. Jason Plato and then Matt Neal, who didn't qualify well here, near the back of the field. Now, at the back of the field behind us, we've got the Class B runners. It's a huge field of Class B cars this time around. Stunning stuff, really, really good variety of cars. And this is actually much more the way Class B and, in fact, touring cars are going to run next year. And our man, Mark Fogarty, well, he's been having a look.
You're looking at the future of the British Touring Car Championship. Next year, we'll see a new breed of touring cars based on sportier and, in some cases, slightly smaller models. These are the road-going versions of the sorts of cars we might be seeing on the touring car grid in 2001.
Here's one car that'll definitely be on the grid, the Vauxhall Astra Coupe. There's a strong possibility Peugeot will return, and Rover is looking at racing a new MG Sport Saloon. The new organisers of the championship expect much bigger fields.
We're hoping for grids in excess of 21 cars next year, which is an improvement on the grids this year. The technical regulations that we're working on for 2001 will allow for much closer bumper-to-bumper on-track action, because essentially all the cars will have the same output.
The cars will be cheaper to make, easier to build, more affordable by the average team come manufacturer, because BTCC at the moment has got too technical, it's got too expensive, and we needed to cut those costs, and with the new regulations we've able to achieve that, and I think next year you'll see more cars on the grid, more exciting, 30 cars and closer racing.
As a driver we all want quicker cars, but I'd rather have a slower car and 10 cars to race against that are as quick as me than have you know, quicker cars and only 5 to race against. It's going to be better, it's going to be closer.
One of the goals for the new rules is to make braking distances a bit longer. So that should make the racing more interesting, because as it is now with the wings, we are braking very, very late, and it's not like F1, but it makes harder to overtake on the braking. So next year, I think, you know, if like a corner around Oulton Park where we would brake at the 100-meter board. Next year we might have to brake at 130. So you've got more scope to overtake the car in front. So the racing should be more interesting.
One thing's for sure, the people behind next year's championship, BMP, and all the manufacturers that are getting involved will do a good job. You know, it's too important for them to get it wrong.
So, lots of opinion, a lot still unknown, but one thing is for sure, the new look British Touring Car Championship won't be dull.
And this is the future of British Touring Car Championship racing. We're looking at the Class B cars as we now go through the field up to the Super Tourers. And certainly I look forward to seeing some very new cars and certainly unusual shapes, certainly things like the Astra Coupe as opposed to the traditional British touring cars which we've been watching for many years, which are 4-door sedans. Green flags wave, the cars are setting off for their 2 laps prior to taking the start of this 30-lap feature race. And pit stop window this afternoon will be between laps 5 and lap 21 in a 70.8-mile event.
Well, there's Ricard Ridel's car. Not as good as I thought. It's quite a good jog up those stairs. Ricard Ridel's car there, it's astonishing the work they've done to that thing. I hope it's steering straight. They worked very hard on it, but apparently the undercar damage to that Ford was extreme. They were very surprised by how bad it really was.
Well, and you bite concrete at the speed. I mean, Ricard maybe hit the wall at 45, 50 miles an hour, and it sort of, he got wedged in because Menu was shoving him from behind. I'm not surprised there's a lot of damage, but you know, great testament to the guys in ProDrive who prepare these cars on behalf of Ford to get them back out on, or get Ricard, here we see him, back into the field this afternoon.
What do you reckon he's thinking now?
Well, I think he's thinking, I'm ahead of Alain by 2 places this time, so I might be able to enact the same maneuver, but not get tagged by my own teammate.
Oh, you're a cynic. Ricard Ridel, it's probably too late to rescue the champ. Nothing is impossible, I have to say, but he's now given himself an extremely steep hill to climb. And as I mentioned, down on the grid there, of course, Anthony Reid on points is now the championship leader, although because you have to drop some scores in the rather complex system of touring car point scoring, his lead isn't as handy as it looks. But as we sit here, he is now the championship leader, and what he has to do, because they do drop scores, is of course try to get another monster of a score now and then drop a lower score that he earned earlier in the year.
Yes, and of course the penalty for that will be at Silverstone next weekend, is that he's going to have to carry weight penalty. He's not having any here this afternoon, and that's going to help him and Gabriele Tarquini. They both are running without weight, whereas everybody else behind will be carrying some, if not more.
Well, there is the man in the office, just having a think about things. Great view there of the driving position and how close they sit to the wheel, and that big sequential gear lever they have to use. Nothing like a road car.
No, it's not. It's a pretty chunky old bit of gear lever. The reason the drivers sit so close, though, is that it enables them to get better leverage. If you sort of adopt maybe a more laid-back position, you would be putting a lot of strain onto your forearms and on your wrists. You want to use the power of your upper body, your shoulder, your biceps, your chest, and that's where you get stamina, that's where you get the power. And a lot of it's very hot on that car as well, by the way. Mildish day, but gets very warm in the cockpit.
Yeah, it is, and it's very humid down there at the moment. It feels as though it could rain, but I'm a rubbish weather forecaster. Championship positions after round 21. As I said, before we take drop scores into account, Anthony Reid is now our series leader. Alain Menu picked up some points and is in second position. Ricard Ridel, forlorn. No points at all from race 1, and the gap is opening up. In fact, Ivan Muller is now breathing down his neck a little bit, because Ivan, quite a clever, canny player, picked up some points in race 1 there and has closed the gap. And Jason Pato, his teammate, in 5th position. Had a frustrating race. When the drop scores are taken into account, Alain Menu would still just be a nose in front, but it is not done by a long way.
No, it's not. One would have to think that all the onus is really on Anthony Reid this afternoon to repeat what he did earlier in the day and get another 15 points to give him as many maximum possible scores in any of the rounds this season, so as the ones that he does have to drop are not high numbers, and he's got a couple of ones where he can afford to, but it's tight, and it'll be resolved probably in the night at Silverstone.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. There's our grid, Tarquini and Reid front row. We saw that. Rademacher, a lovely qualifier from him. Ricard Ridel alongside. Next row, James Thompson, and then Menu. Important to point out that Ricard out-qualified Alain Menu here. That's significant. Then Ivan Muller, 7th, alongside his teammate Jason Plato. Matt Neal, the independent, in 9th, and Tom Christensen, 10th. Tom is very quick around here. Now, he's a guy to watch because Christensen crashed during qualifying, which is why he hasn't qualified very well. Stuck down the back of the grid. I wouldn't mind betting he'll go for a very, very early pit stop and let this traffic go. What do you think, Tom?
I think it's a good possibility. I mean, he's going to get bogged down trying to get through. Remember, Christensen won the feature race here in May, so he knows his way around Oulton Park. He likes the circuit, and he's quick here. But starting from where he is, all the way down in 10th place in the grid, it is a mountain to climb.
You can just see our bright green Peugeot 306s, our Class B runners. Dan Eves, the first of those, who's out-qualified Alan Morrison in the second one. And Alan Morrison, of course, is the Class B championship leader. There is Eves, there's Morrison, and behind him, Harrison in the white Ford Focus. Now, Morrison, in that second Peugeot, is in pretty good shape to take out this championship in Class B, and in fact might even do it this weekend.
And of course his principal competitor in that championship is James Kay. James had again a disaster in qualifying starts on the back of the grid as he did in the sprint race, so his championship hopes are going to be very much dependent on really whether he can get through the field and get close to Morrison to have a go.
Tarquini now. I joked with him on the grid, but it has been a problem for Gabrielli. Stunningly fast, but at least once this year he's thrown it off from a position of being in the lead, having started in pole position. He must hang it together. You see that very big grid now forming up. As you can see, the camera angle proves that there's it's an undulating circuit, and there's quite a bit of a hill to climb over just after the start. There's the white Ford Focus there of Simon Harrison, the Class B runner, just pulling in the rest of those cars. Just compressing, getting ready, while the front boys still wait. James Kay in one of the Class B Honda Accords, his teammate Mark Lemmer alongside. All looks to be in order, though.
Yes, but remember what Menu said, it's a fairly narrow pit straight. It does funnel into Old Hole Corner, and it's a recipe for any trouble to happen going into this first corner.
Yep, first corner critical here. The touring cars are staggered. The other Class B are side by side. Lights are red, revs are up, lights are green, and they're away. Tarquini in the red Honda on the left. Good start. Look at James Thompson making a big dart down the left-hand side. Fabulous start from Thompson. Tarquini in front, Reid side by side. Tarquini just through, and Reid Thompson blinder up into third position. Very, very strong stuff. Matt Neal in the independent Nissan running a little bit wide there. He's side by side with Christensen as they funnel over the hill for the first time through Cascades. And Menu looking pretty strong there. Rydell, though, slipped back. That's not a good start from him.
No, it's not. He lost 2 places to his teammate, and Menu now challenging Thompson to make it up to third place.
Okay, down into the hairpin. This is going to be busy. James Thompson, and a Menu right behind him. Then that's Van Muller. Rademacher going very wide. And Ricard Rydell, who's been shuffled back in the order. And back over the crest of the hill. Tarquini, nice, clean, cracking start from him. Reid will be well pleased as well. Now, look, here's Alain Menu, and you can see that red box all over Van Muller darting all over the place as they come down the hill towards Knickerbrook, looking for a place to pass. Menu just hold him off. Then Muller, then Rydell, and then the rest of the Vauxhall, and Matt Neal, who's lost a position as well. Now at the back of the field, Christensen has got him.
Yes, he has. Tom made 1 place, but of course it's very close this opening lap. It'll all come down to the decision of the teams. Are they going to stop early and take advantage of trying to get back on a clear track and run on a set of tires for distance, or go a longer distance on your first set?
A nice start from Tarquini, got his tail up. Now have a look here. We've got Muller in one of the Vauxhalls, just painting a pass, see if he can get past Alain Menu. Couldn't do it. Matt Neal now fighting back with Christensen at the back end of this group, and across the strike for the first time. Everyone through cleanly. That's good news. Round through Old Hall Corner, carrying a lot of speed there. Those Vauxhalls, there's quite a bit of shuffling back in the pack there. But at the front, it's Tarquini. Reid very much in touch. James Thompson will be pleased with that as we see 2 Vauxhalls going side by side. It was just Rademacher just sliding down the inside of Jason Plato as they went down Cascades. That's gutsy stuff, fast part of the track.
It is a fast part. Rademacher, another driver who really enjoys this racetrack, but you're fighting your own teammate. There's another competitor or more out there who you should be worried about more.
Well, Rademacher, of course, qualified extremely well here. He got shuffled back early on in the order because he was on the second row of the grid. So now he's got all the work to do. Life looked a lot better for him as Matt Neal moves to the inside to try to get Christensen. Christensen goes all the way over to the grass to head him off and then pulls back again. That's firm from the Dane.
Yes, but he's learning. He came here somewhat green in terms of British touring car racing. He's had a few shunts, a few tough lessons. That was a tough lesson for Matt Neal.
Yeah, indeed. It's fair to say old Christensen had his ears boxed well and truly a few times. In fact, Matt Neal and he tangled in the opening round, which we telecast live back at Brands Hatch, and they both finished off in the gravel. So, in fact, Tom's probably got a few scores to settle as we get near the end of the championship. No love lost between him and a few of them. He's got a couple of old rivals, Matt Neal behind him and Jason Plato in front of him. Not a comfortable position for Tom Christensen in that red and white Honda to be in. Now, I don't know what happened to Rademacher. He obviously had quite a moment going down the hill there. He just fell back through the pack. I don't know whether there was any contact at all, but he had a bad start because he qualified so well here. Started on the second row of the grid, which was really something for him.
Well, as the Class A cars filter down through Cascades, looking at Class B, the leader is Alan Morrison, but it's Gareth Howell in the Ford Focus in second place. Dan Eaves, who was alongside Morrison on the grid, he's all the way down in 20th place.
A very wide line there from Jason Plato in the third of the Vauxhalls, down through the hairpin. Now, just look at that gap. Gabriele Tarquini has already started to open up as we come down towards Knickerbrook. Then Anthony Reid, then Thompson, then Menu, then Muller, then Rickard Rydell, who is having an afternoon he'd rather forget. He was ahead of his teammate, now he's behind him, and he's slipped way down the order into 6th position. It's very frustrating for him. Nothing in the performance of these cars as they go back up Clay Hill, though, a steep part of the circuit which follows that very tight chicane. Horsepower important, all of them hanging on pretty closely to each other.
Yeah, so we saw in the sprint race where Menu really was holding up a gaggle of 5 cars. That isn't the case. It just shows how close everybody around Oulton Park is, with the exception of Reid and Tarquini, who are way out front and have gone.
Now, that's a lot to do with the fact that they are carrying no ballast. The Ford is fast, and we know that the Honda's got heaps of horsepower as well. But in spite of that, they're not carrying ballast, and that's an enormous help around here. They're really on it, though, working as hard as you like. Both Tarquini and Reid running very wide there in the entrance to Old Hall, the exit to Old Hall. Now, I don't know what fluid is falling out of the back of Tarquini's car, but that would be very alarming for Anthony Reid.
It certainly was. I don't know what it was coming out of the right rear of the Honda, and clearly Reid would have seen it. We'll have a look down, see if we can see it. It may be only on the left-hand corners, but something clearly was exiting the back of this car.
Yeah, if you're that close and you're trying to hang on to a lead in the championship, you don't want to be getting tangled up with it. But even so, Tarquini is setting a blistering pace so far. Really quick start. It's opened up more than a second gap already over Anthony Reid, and while he's got clear air and no traffic to lap, this is the time to make hay. Back up the hill again.
Well, I just wonder if Reid would have seen that as well as we saw it on screen, as he was thinking maybe the problem with the Honda is, as you say, I don't want to go too close to him if it's going to be a mechanical problem, or if it's, say, something like water, a leak from a radiator or a hose. I want to stay off that.
Yeah, it does not need that at all, and there's already a comfortable gap for Anthony Reid. Back to third place man James Thompson in the second of those Hondas, so there's just a little bit of breathing space for him. Reid at the moment can set his own pace. Fair to say Tarquini's not holding him up, and he's not having to defend either, so at the moment things are looking pretty sweet for him, and the lap times between the two of them are extremely close. His last lap was 24.2, as was Tarquini's, nothing in it.
Just thinking what Anthony Reid might be thinking. We've got 30 laps here. We're going to make pit stops. We've seen Ford at Brands Hatch 2 weekends ago made those absolutely incredible pit stops, 4.16 seconds. He can do his overtaking in the pit lane. Now, that's not what motor racing is all about, but it is a part of this feature event. You can do it in the pit lane, or you can do it on the racetrack.
Great to see Tarquini leading. Remember, he is a former champion. He has won this series before, way back when he drove for Alfa Romeo. Blisteringly fast driver. He's had some exposure to Formula One as well. He's no slouch, but he just has not banked results.
I think he's been suffering along with Thompson and Christensen to some degree that the Honda has not been as consistent over the course of the season as we've seen from Ford in particular. And the JAS Honda team, a factory Honda team, an Italian run, have sometimes gone their own way in particular developments, and that's helped them in certain areas. But overall, they seem to be lacking an outside performance that we've seen from Ford.
If you were Anthony Reid, what would you be doing now? Trying to pace the car a little bit, or really trying to challenge to get past Tarquini? Because he needs to be close enough to Tarquini to try to get some advantage during the pit stops, doesn't he? Because after all, Ford, I think it's fair to say, are the guys to beat when it comes to changing tyres.
Yes, they are, but I would think he's about a second and a half just behind. It's 1.571 seconds. I mean, if he gets any closer, he then gets into the area where he's having to focus too much on what Tarquini's doing instead of just driving very comfortably. And I think that when they come near to their time to come in for the pit stops, that one you'll see a little spurt to bring him up to the back of Tarquini, assuming that Tarquini himself hasn't gone in for his tyres.
Well, we just saw that fast right-hander down through Cascades again, and once again a faint spray of liquid out of the back of Tarquini's car, maybe a fuel breather or something like that. But and if anything, I think Anthony Reid's just a tiny bit closer now, so maybe he's resolved that it's nothing that's going to bother him. In fact, Anthony Reid coming back down the hill now towards the chicane, I think is clearly a bit closer to Tarquini than he was half a lap ago. after that chicane. This is a very steep hill that they climb up now, Clay Hill, all the way up through the gears. They reach top gear as they fly up around that part of the circuit, on tippy toes around there, and then this double apex right-hander, which they're still going through in fifth gear, most of them, I think. It's a very, very fast right-hander, isn't it?
It is a fast corner, but it's one of those corners that when you're a racing driver, you really appreciate. And you get the car in, you just get it in, make one apex, don't go too wide out to the left, keep back for the second apex, but then as you exit the corner, the car goes like over the crest, and when a car really works well here, somebody in the pits,
two cars, yeah, Thompson and one of the Vauxhalls as well as followed in. I think that was Muller. Couldn't quite see, but I think Muller darted in. Yes, indeed it was. So the first pit stop drag.
Yes, indeed, and it's Vauxhall again early in the pits, followed in fact, or led in by James Thompson. There we go, well, a slightly poor stop. Vauxhall didn't quite get it right. The clutch was released, the car wasn't down. Oh, Thompson gets out just ahead of Muller.
Yeah, that was important for James because he was right up there. In fact, as I said, I thought it would be Christensen that would try to dive in first, but Thompson, who was in clear air on his own, has still opted to go in early. I'm a bit puzzled by that because he wasn't being held up.
He was running strongly again. He's another one of the cars in the leading group that is running without ballast, so whether Thompson felt that it was the opportune time to do it now and then focus on the remaining laps. We've got another 23 laps to go. It's a long way in one set of tires.
Yeah, it's an odd strategy though, because he had clear air in front of him and he wasn't defending from behind. So far be it from me, but I'd have thought just staying out there for a while and keeping those tires fresh would have been the way forwards. And now he's got Ivan Muller all over him, and that has closed the gap between those two, and Muller is really giving him something to deal with now.
Yes, Muller, at the end of the day, came away better from the series of pit stops than Thompson did. Thompson wasn't really under threat from Muller. He is now, and of course, for Muller to be in close proximity to Thompson is only going to inspire him to do what we saw happen a little bit earlier in the sprint race when that battle with Menu was going on down at Lodge Corner.
Indeed, well, Ivan Muller is looking pretty rapid and his pacing is up now. More in, Ricard Rydell in, and that's Jason Plato as well. So another head-to-head, Vauxhall to Ford this time.
And I think Ricard Rydell is just a bit of practice for the Ford team before they bring Anthony Reid in particular, or Alan Menu. That's a good stop. And Vauxhall again.
Oh, very close to the pit lane though. And a very, very forceful pass there, if you like, in the pit lane by Jason Plato. There was almost contact. Ricard Rydell would be well sick of that pit wall by now. He's almost hit both sides of it. And very big traffic indeed, because James Thompson there just weaving down the inside. That was Plato and Rydell coming out of the pits, and Thompson and Muller, who had a lap ahead of them because they pitted already, getting very, very tangled up on themselves. Now they're three abreast down the back straight. Rydell in the yellow and blue Ford, Thompson alongside. Ivan Muller jumping up and down. Let me through, let me through. Rydell is getting a shot in the back from Muller. Muller now cuts to the inside. Rydell is getting sandwiched by the pair of them. What an afternoon. Just let me alone, guys. This is giving me a headache. Three abreast down the hill. We've got a chicane to come up. Jason Plato in the foreground. Then James Thompson. Then a Muller on the left. And Rydell behind. There's the view from Rydell's car. And he really lost out there.
Well, there's your answer to why he made those early pit stops. It has benefited some and it's hindered others. But Ricard Rydell, really, it's not been his weekend so far. He's just backed out of it in effect. And he's going through the motions.
He must feel as though he's dropped 20 quid and picked up sixpence. Everything is going south for him. So now we perch on Ricard Rydell's bonnet as we see Alain Menu come into the pits, and this is a very important stop.
So let's see what the clock says for Alain Menu. 3.8. I can't believe it. I've never seen something as fast as that in the 2 years we've had pit stops in touring cars.
And here comes the cavalry, John. You can see Menu filing out of the pits, and you can see the rest of the field coming around. And Menu out in front. That is a blistering stop.
Tremendous work by the Ford team to get Menu right up into contention with teammate Anthony Reid. Now we'll wait to see what Reid does. He has yet to come in, as has Tarquini. But if they can do any better than 3.8 seconds, well, that's what they're going to have to do to keep Reid basically ahead of Menu.
Well, there it is. There's the shuffle. Alain Menu in the foreground. All of this gaggle of cars, as we see there. A lunge down the inside of James Thompson by Ivan Muller, and Muller has done it. Just slip through down the inside. Ricard Rydell at the back of that group. There's Rademacher in the first of the Vauxhalls. Then there's Muller. Then there's James Thompson. James just ceding a place. So it's Menu in the foreground. Then Plato. Then Rademacher. Then Muller. Then James Thompson trying to get that spot back in the big red and white Honda, just trying to fight through. Couldn't do it. But all of those cars had pitted, and all of them are behind Alain Menu.
I think there's going to be a lot of very surprised people. The way this has shuffled out after these pit stops early in the race is not what we expected. Tarquini, race leader, is in.
Now this is very, very, very important, because Tarquini needs to come out ahead of that gaggle, but more importantly, we need to see, and there's a lot of wheel spin there.
Yes, he did. He buried the throttle. He got wheel spin, get a bit of temperature in the tyre, but then you've got to slow down over that white line. Then you can accelerate and get up to race speed.
Well, no problem about his lead. We just saw the rest of the field way in the distance as Tarquini goes out again, all on his own. The one man, of course, he's mucho worried about still is Anthony Reid, because he's not pitted. He's sitting out there and banging away the laps. But this is ideal for Tarquini because he's made his pit stop and clear track now. And he'll have to push on this outlap, though.
Yes, he will.
Really
I think
hard.
that's why he got those tyres lit up as the car came down off the jacks. He must get heated them as quickly as possible to ensure that this outlap, he can maximise his lap time.
Push as hard as he can. Class B runners now just starting to come into contention here. There's Anthony Reid. You can see that green stripe under the name on the side window of his car. That shows us that he has not pitted. Once he pits, one of the things that the crew has to do is whip that stick off, and both sides under the name so that we know that he's pitted, and if they don't do it, he's got to pit again now. Any time now. Yes, he's peeling off to the right. This will make or break the race.
We saw 3.8 seconds stop for teammate Menu. Ford team absolutely fantastic here this afternoon.
Wheels off.
Whoa, second and a half slower for Reid. It's not enough to put Menu into contention, but it's certainly going to give
But they're going to Tarquini in the foreground. That's the problem for Anthony Reid. There's the rest of the field, and I'm sure he'll make it out ahead of those. Mark Lemmer in the Class B Accord. Anthony Reid has pulled out. The rest of the field are behind. But Gabriele Tarquini, thanks to a great stop by the Jazz Honda team, has, if anything, opened up a lead.
Yes, he has.
There's the man.
Great stop. Anthony Reid will be disappointed. He's second and a half slower than his teammate. And it's putting them, they're going to get closer to him. Once they see him, they will be hunting him down.
Headlights ablaze. Gabriele Tarquini let the rest of the field know. There's Dan Eves in the Class B. Peugeot 306 just pulling to one side. Now, down the hill, you can see the impact of that stop, if you like. Just look at Anthony Reid in the Ford, then Alain Menu in the Ford, much closer now. And Vincent Rademacher once again squirming under brakes. I'm very uncomfortable as a spectator watching the setup on that car. We commented about it in race one, but he really, really works under brakes. James Thompson there having a mix-up with the Class B Accord, weaving one way, flicking back the other. That's costing time.
Yes, but James Thompson fairly well down the field in 8th place, and really a battle with Vincent Rademacher. I can't think he's going to leave here feeling terribly happy.
No, indeed. Rydell just slithering through the inside there of Mark Lemmer in the Class B Accord, and Christensen right behind Rydell now. As we come down into Lodge Corner, Rydell moves to cover. Back up and over the strike there. There's second place man Anthony Reid, championship leader. The man behind him is Alain Menu, who was championship leader when he woke up this morning. Then Jason Plato right behind him. This race order has been stood on its ear by these pit stops, and it ain't over yet. Coming over the hill, there's a Class B Peugeot ahead of us.
Yes, Alan Morrison, but for Anthony Reid, he had to take an easy lap out. He didn't get the speed in that out lap for those new front tires. Menu had that one lap under his belt. He had his momentum, and he's now right on the boot lid of that teammate Anthony Reid.
Down into the hairpin. Reid defends. Menu looks to pass. Plato tucks in behind. Back up and over the hill. Jason Plato there. Moving down towards... Now, here's a great view from Jason Plato's car. Plato right on the boot lid of Menu. Sorry, right in the boot lid of Menu. Oh, and Menu is off and wide. What's happened? Menu's cut around the other side of the Knickerbrook chicane.
Yeah, but he had no option. He got hit so hard from behind. He couldn't turn. He just got punted across. So I don't think there'll be any penalty for Menu on that particular one.
Yeah, indeed. Jason Plato out-braking himself there and leaving a little headbutt mark on the back of Alain Menu's car. Nothing deliberate, I'm sure, but Plato obviously having the wit as well, not to jump past and try to pass Menu, and in doing so giving himself problems. Speaking of problems, there's Muller just slipping past the inside of Howell in the Class B Ford Focus, getting through cleanly. Yes, he does. There's Jason Plato, lead Vauxhall. Behind him is Ivan Muller. Now into Lodge Corner, Reid, Menu, just sliding past James Kay in the Class B Accord. James running very strongly there, second place in Class B. Jason Plato staying with him and getting through as well. Class B runners, nice driving there, guys, making room, that's good. Then Muller right behind. Feeding onto the back, this is getting very, very busy indeed. Now, Anthony Reid Reid, this is not part of the plan at all. He had a comfortable gap before the pit stop nonsense started. Now he's thinking to himself, I have my arch rival championship fire, and the man that wants to have me off the track most right behind me, and that's not good. Look at Anthony Reid now coming down the track. That's a defensive line. He's in the middle of the track. There's your race order, because Matt Neal hasn't pitted yet. That's why he's leading, the independent man from Tarquini in second position. Once Matt falls in, he will resume his normal order. There's Vincent Rademacher. He's going very well, although he did lose out very much from the start of the race where he had such a fabulous pit stop. But this is a close race. Old teammates, Alain Menu and Jason Plato. Menu in the Ford, Plato in the Vauxhall. They're former teammates. They've already been contact. Plato's got nothing to lose, and he's trying very hard. He ran himself wide there through that double apex left-hander. Onto the grass, did well to save it.
He certainly did, but of course, he's down a car that may well be damaged. That was a big hit. He's hit in the back of Alain Menu. Ran wide coming out of Druids. That could have been a part of the problem. Front of the car you can see is damaged. That will affect the aerodynamics of the car, how the car handles. But Menu now beginning to lose contact with Reid. The advantage of that lower weight for Anthony Reid beginning to tell.
Yeah, Plato very, very much in the thick of it this afternoon. The lead Vauxhall so far, the front of his car carrying... Now, here is a replay of that leaving of the pits. And that was a focusing moment. I'm sure it gave Rydell a surprise.
I think Rydell was really one of those days where he thinks, well, everything's going to go wrong for me, and if I can get out dragged down to the pit lane, so that's it. I have to accept what the day offers.
He's probably expecting to break down in his car on the way home from the circuit. It's all going so horribly. I'll tell you what, Jason Plato's got his hands full, though, because right behind him in the second of those Vauxhalls is Muller. Muller just had a lunge a moment to go into the hairpin. And behind Muller, of course, Rademacher thinks, I really need to get something out of today. I want to show everybody else I'm not the third driver in Vauxhall. I'm as quick as my two teammates. So those three are running very close together.
And how long will it be before Jason Plato just happens to run wide in a corner? And by coincidence, his teammate Ivan Muller will be there to take advantage.
Yeah, Ivan Muller, if there was ever anybody to pounce on an opportunity, it's him. Plato opening up a bit of a gap there. There's Matt Neal, as I said. He was our race leader because he had not pitted. Now he's in, the last of the Class A runners, changing front tyres.
So we see how Matt Neal can fare a difficult weekend in qualifying. That engine misfire affected the car in the qualifying for this feature race, and it took it out of the qualifying for the sprint race. But look, he's coming in basically behind the two Hondas. Only Ricard Rydell will be behind him.
Yeah, he won't be pleased with that at all, and he's now got that frustrating first lap that they all talk about when they've changed two of the tyres and the car handles badly. As you can see, Matt Neal, they're not even going down on the proper racing line through Cascades, just getting the feel of his car. Now, Alain Menu there with three Vauxhalls behind. Plato first. There's Reid, there's Menu. Now Reid is getting a slightly comfortable gap over that Ford and those three marauding Vauxhalls. Twisting and turning left to right as they go through that chicane. Very, very tough on the car.
I think Anthony Reid really didn't react to the pressure of Menu being so close to him. He knew he had to be careful on that outlap. He knew he must not try and put bigger time between himself and Menu on the opening lap. All he had to do was make sure Menu didn't get close enough to pounce, but now he's got his tyres up to temperature. He's been able to pull away. But look, once again, Plato locks it up just behind Menu.
Yeah, Plato's really, really working hard now. You can sense he can make a name for himself here. Alain Menu doesn't want it made at his expense because he's chasing championship points. Jason Plato, for all intents and purposes, is out of the hunt. Just checking at the lap 15 point. Tarquini in the lead in the Honda. A comfy lead. Look at that. 7 seconds ahead of Anthony Reid in second place. Reid just ahead of Menu. Reid knows that, and so do we, because we can see it. Then Plato right behind Menu. Ivan Muller as close as that as well. And then Rademacher. So it's Honda, Ford, and then that great big pack of Vauxhalls bearing down on a lot of them. Through that hairpin. All the way down from 6th gear to first to get through there, and it looked there as though Jason Plato was starting to have a real lunge at the back of Menu's car. That's keeping Menu busy. There he is. Menu's moving to the center of the track. There's the view back from his car. He's working. Down into Knickerbrook chicane comes Plato, and he's thinking about touching him, but he doesn't. But Menu is that close, and there's the view forwards.
And that view, believe me, is a lot closer than it looks, Alan. Then you will not want to see the red and white Vauxhall of Jason Plato so close to the boot of his car. He's felt it once going into the chicane. That's enough.
Pretty terrifying photo of Jason Plato. Actually, he looked quite startled.
Yeah, but I think Alan Menu's probably feeling a bit startled, because coming through Druids, you could see the car was oversteering. Now that's something you don't ordinarily see a Mondeo do these days. It's so good. The car is so well balanced. That's an indication that maybe Menu is struggling now, whereas this is giving inspiration to Plato to push him harder, get that situation to develop, wear those tyres out even quicker.
Yeah, he's really been worked hard there. As you can see, all of them using all of the curb and a bit more, running past the edge of the curb onto the rough into the grass, down the Cascades, slightly off balance, off camber, fast part of the track, up into the next gear, then top, and then when he stands on the brakes, all the way down through the gearbox, the first gear. And look at that, Plato on board, and he's trying to tuck down the inside into the hairpin. Is he close enough? He's getting into the toe. A little bit more horsepower from the Ford as we go up and over the hill. The Vauxhall just hasn't quite the legs. What can he do under brakes? We've got to turn right in a minute. Standing on the brakes, cutting back. Well, if any closer, it can't be. Using all of the curve. Menu just holding him off.
Menu's got a problem. He ran wide in the hairpin bend. That gave Plato, in fact, Muller and Rademacher, the run on Menu up the hill, down into the chicane. So whatever the problem we saw in this corner one lap ago is affecting the car elsewhere around the circuit.
Well, it's proving great entertainment for Jason Plato, and of course it's meaning that Ivan Muller and Vincent Rademacher and those other two Vauxhalls are very much in touch. Look, Muller now fainting down the inside of Plato. Plato locks up the rear under brakes. Just closes the door on his teammate.
I think that Jason Plato, actually, although he's running strongly and quickly, but Muller is capable of running more so. And I think the team are going to say very shortly, Jason, let Muller go, because he's got a chance both in the championship but also in this race to get past Alan Menu.
Well, Plato's working hard once again, kicking up the dust, using more track than exists in his battle to try to stay in touch with and get past Menu, and in doing so he's now falling back a bit. Tarquini, Reid, and then once again running wide. This is like a set of qualifying laps.
I reckon he's got a problem with the tyres. Somehow or other, that set of tyres is not working as well for Alan Menu. We've seen him. Or the only other thing is the dump that he got up the back, again has affected the back of the car.
Well, Plato, the front of his car, looking a little bit second-hand from having nerfed the back of Menu's car, is closing up again as they come out. He looks pretty good, Jason Plato, out of that chicane, out of the hairpin rather, than down into the chicane. Menu's just got enough power to the front of that Vauxhall, very second-hand. Not enough to affect its handling, I guess, but it's just crimped down at the front. The seesawing power differential between the two of them, there's just enough squirt in that Ford, but the Vauxhall is really handling well.
Well, we lost Vincent Rademacher. He suddenly has disappeared. I think I saw a very smoky car just because behind that you've got Christensen, so one Vauxhall is out.
Yeah, well, maybe there was a rush of blood. They've all been driving at 11/10 for the last few laps. Yeah, you're right. No sign of Rademacher. Must have pulled off. Plato and Muller. Meantime, there's Christensen.
Now, was that oil that went down from Rademacher's car or something? He's gone off. I think that's a Druids we wait to see. Ironically, it's a vector sign. If it was the oil from the Vauxhall, how ironic can you guess?
Ever an eye for marketing, Watty. That is buried in the tyre wall. They're talking to Tom. I'm sure he's fine. That is the double apex right-hander. Druids, it's a fast old corner, and that is about the time where you saw Rademacher disappear from screen. I don't know if those events are connected. They may be by the look of the gesture there from Christensen. What are you doing? That means that Rademacher's up a tree or somewhere. He's back to the pits.
Yeah, Rademacher, I'm sure, I had just a blue haze. I'm sure that was oil. Certainly it was a liquid of some sort. And I think that Christensen, who was running behind Rademacher, was the first car to come upon it. He had probably no warning, and certainly nothing he could do about it. And off he went at high speed into the bales.
Well, he hasn't had a great year, Tom Christensen. He's been very quick on occasion, but I tell you what, you wouldn't make good luck charms out of his melted down Honda. He's had more problems than most people in terms of accidents that weren't his fault, and that's another one by the looks. Here's our race leader, though. Remember him? He just sauntered off into the lead. He's got an 8-second lead now, but with all of that oil down and Christensen's car off, if they start slowing this race down or there are yellow flags, that might affect Gabriele Tarquini.
Well, certainly they'll have a flag out at Druids now, but of course...
Safety car, the safety car board's out. Just see that at the end of the pit lane. There it is, backing up the field. Gabriele Tarquini, who had a wonderful lead, will not be impressed.
No, it's disappointment on one hand, but of course safety is priority here. And if there are liquids in volume down at Druids, it's only in the interest of everybody. There we see Christensen. He got caught totally unawares by whatever oil or water. And, well, he's fine walking around, but he was certainly not very happy with the situation. May have been sort of venting his anger at the marshals. Maybe they didn't get the flag out quick enough.
Well, there's... What on earth went on there?
Well, he actually tried to dive inside, I think. Or else a front suspension broke. I can't imagine. So maybe that was the smoke I saw. I saw a blue haze. It may have been tyre smoke.
It just looked as though the front...
It could be the front suspension broke as the car came into Druids.
Well, rotten luck, Tom. And that's a very fast part of the circuit. We were talking only a couple of laps ago. It's a fifth-gear corner.
It is, and it happened at the same time as Rademacher had a problem. He went into the pits. The car's being retired. So whether it was cause and effect or whether it was just coincidental, we don't really know yet.
Yeah, that's it's good that he's fine. That's a 100-mile-an-hour corner. They go through there very, very hard indeed. The reason for the safety car is, of course, it's a fast corner, and Tom Christensen's car is now a danger to other cars. If anyone else had an accident there, even if there is no oil down, you can't leave a big hard object like a Honda parked in the corner in front of the tyre wall.
Now, the trajectory of any car going off in that corner would be precisely where Christensen's car is, so it's safety for the drivers, but also for marshals who may be around the car. See the safety car sign. Matt Neal also opening the door just to get a bit of fresh air in and some hot air out.
I thought he was leaving there for a minute. Easy, Matt. Way to go yet. But it will cool down the car a lot. They're very, very hot inside these things. It's not a bad idea, actually.
Well, he's a big old fella, and he probably generates a bit of energy pumping away at the steering wheel, so why not open the door, let some air? That helps evacuate the hot air in the car and go through the ventilation system a bit more to top up.
Yeah, don't try this at home.
No, certainly not at home tonight.
Now, you might notice the field is bunched up behind Gabriele Tarquini. What the safety car will do is wave through the rest of the field. In fact, you might have noticed he caught a whole gaggle of Class B runners. They will be waved through because the job of the safety car, of course, is to pick up the race leader, who is Gabriele Tarquini. Unfortunately, for the two Class B runners behind, Mark Lemmer there in the Class B Honda Accord, and Morrison in the Class B Peugeot 306. Well, they're actually caught in the thick of this. They can't be waved through now because they're behind Tarquini, so they're going to have to really duck and out of the way. Well, there they are. They're still bunched in behind. I thought they'd be waved through by now, but the field is yet to compress. There they are now coming back on the gaggle of Class B cars. Theoretically, they should be waved through so that this man here in the foreground in the red and white Honda actually restarts the race. Otherwise, it'll be confusion indeed if he's trying to get past slower cars.
Well, just to add to the confusion, we've just learned from the pit lane that Morrison has been in his Peugeot and had a large volume of brake fluid added to the car system. Now, I don't think that's what caused the incident down at Druids for Tom Christensen, but again, three elements all at one time, maybe individual or maybe all conspiring, kick it together.
A very big field now combined with the Class B guys. Now, Fogues is down there in the pit lane, and he's been having a chat to the Honda boys. He might have some news for us on the plight of Tom Christensen.
Charlie, I'm afraid there is no news from the Honda camp. They haven't got radio contact to Tom Christensen's car. A couple of other guys in other teams looked at the crash, and they were suggesting it looked like suspension failure, but we don't know that. I can tell you, however, that Vincent Rademacher, the reason for his retirement, he's put it away in the garage because of engine failure. Could be something as severe as a drop piston or something like that. The team don't know exactly now. So we don't know why Christensen went off, but we do know that Rademacher went out because of an engine failure.
Well, that's very disappointing, Mark, for Rademacher, because he was running more strongly this weekend here than we've seen him for a while.
It's been one of his best performances. He's been very much the number 3 in the Vauxhall team and running a lot under team orders. So they've been able to give him a little bit of his head, and he's come through. He's a very underrated driver, Vincent Rademacher, and he's shown some glimpses of his talent today. Although he's always, particularly at the moment in the point structure, he's got to be subservient to both Muller and Plato. But he's been able to show some of his talent, so that's pretty good for his own self-esteem, if nothing else, I guess.
Well, Gabriele Tarquini now still behind those Class B runners, which puzzles me because I thought he would be dragged up to the front as the race leader. It's going to be a very busy restart if he's doing it behind those fellows. I don't understand why he's not being waved through, why everyone's not waved through up to him.
Certainly going to be very focusing for those Class B runners as Tarquini and Reid size their way through, and could easily be an incident just after the safety car goes in.
Well, here's another look, John. What do you think?
Well, he's certainly locked up. The front right's locked up, and something goes wrong. I mean, the wheel looks like it's lost complete location that just goes forwards and backs, and that's what's knocked the bumper, tore the wing off. I mean, the wing is just shredded. I can't believe that's a metal wing in the car to be shredded so dramatically, but that's a wheel out of control. Poor Tom Christensen had no way of escape. He just had to wait and go with the car, and it ended up in the tire wall.
Yeah, you can see all four wheels locked up. He stood on the brake, tried to wash the speed off, but it's grass up to the tyre barrier there. Fortunately, I guess for him, impact-wise, he went in backwards. That's always a more comfortable, or should I say less uncomfortable way to have an accident, because you sat well in the seat. There are the skid marks right across the grass there, where he backed it into the tyre wall. Just let go so fast.
Yes, it did. He had no real option. He was just suddenly a passenger, and a car travelling at sort of 100 miles an hour as they come into a double right-hander is not going to slow down in the space of the track and the runoff area that exists here at Oulton Park.
Gabriele Tarquini, my sense of neatness has been satisfied, because we just saw the gaggle of Class B runners released by the safety car. All of those between Gabriele Tarquini and the red Honda there, who is the race leader, all of those in front have been waved through. They'll now sprint around the track as quickly as possible and rejoin at the back of the field.
I'm surprised they didn't let them do that a little bit sooner, because it's going to take them probably another lap behind the safety car for those Class B cars to catch up to the end of this train of cars.
Yeah, that's a disadvantage for them, substantial, because it will actually split that Class B rank. Rydell, of course, has had an awkward afternoon, as we know. He lost a couple of places down there in the hairpin earlier in the race. But on top of all of that, he's stopped a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So he must have jogged under a pile of ladders on the way to the track today. There's nothing else that can go wrong, is there, short of lightning strike?
I think Ricard Rydell just wants to get away from here as quick as possible. And it's inevitable when things go wrong for you. It's only going to get compounded something as stupid as, you know, maybe exceeding the speed limit by a few miles an hour, but the penalties are there, and the penalty is it's a drive-through. So Ricard Rydell down in 8th place, and well, I think he's just waiting for this race to end.
It's a real disappointment as we look at Ricard now, cruised up behind the field. He's a lovely bloke, number one. He's a fabulous driver, number two, very smooth, very clean, and of course, remember, he is a former British touring car champion, having taken the title driving a Volvo.
And if I remember correctly, at the start of the year when we were choosing our potential championship hopes, I think I chose Ricard Rydell.
Yeah, you did. We've both proved to be great good luck charms, because I'd picked James Thompson, who is extremely a long way off the pace in terms of the title hunt, not in terms of his speed, but we should just stop doing that. Great team behind Ricard Rydell. His engineer, Brad Joyce, actually was my engineer a few years ago. Great fellow, nice team. And he'll be thinking, maybe next year. He's not going to do it from here. Anthony Reid is going to really have to work very hard once this race restarts to keep Alain Menu behind him, because of course they are now bumper to bumper with each other. Down the back straight, safety car lights still on. Now this is going to be very good for Gabriele Tarquini, because he's there in the Class A Honda with his headlights ablaze weaving. Then there are two Class B cars, Lemmer and Morrison, right behind him. And then the rest of the field. So this is quite a handy little buffer for him between him and the rest of the field. So unless Anthony Reid and Menu can nip straight past those boys on the start-finish straight, it could make their lives a bit complicated.
Well, of course, they can't do that until they go across the start-finish line, so it's not a very great distance from that down to the old corner. Now, Reid might get past one of them, and he might even try to pinch the second one, but for Menu, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So Menu, anticipating the restart.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, old Tarquini will probably get on the gas as early as he can before that start-finish line and try to hold them up a bit. We can see the lights are off now on the safety car. That tells us that at the end of this lap, the race will resume. All of the debris, the rubble has been moved. Remember, the first 5 laps under the safety car don't count towards the race distance, so they'll have to add those laps to it, as we see Tom Christensen walking unhappily back down the pit lane, unhappily but fit and well down the pit lane after what would have been a very, very frightening accident for him. Back now to explain to the crew what happened.
Yeah, it's one of those funny things, even I'm sure he himself isn't quite clear, other than knowing that something fairly catastrophic went wrong with the car. But when he got out of the car and would have seen the amount of damage, it would have been quite unbelievable.
Well, Fogues is down there with Tom. That might be able to throw a little bit of light on the subject.
Right to Charlie, I'm right here with Tom Christensen. He's just had the long walk back from his car. You backed it into the tyre barriers. What happened there, Tom?
Very unfortunately, up the hill before the road, we were doing 6th gear, frightening speed, and the brake disc, brake disc exploded up through the rim and the tyre. There's nothing I could do except spin it and hope the best.
An exciting ride, to say the least.
Yeah, but I hit the barrier not that hard, so I'm perfectly okay, and the marshals were there to pick me out. But again, great weekend.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Okay, well, that's very, very bad news. That would have been a terrifying moment. We'll revisit that in a moment as the safety car pulls off and the race is about to restart. Gabriele Tarquini has just taken off. See you later, guys. Make your own arrangements. He is going to go across the start-finish line with the race resumed. There's an enormous lead. Look at that. Night and day back to Anthony Reid, second position in the Ford, and that Jason Plato is challenging Alain Menu in the second of those Fords. Plato down the inside, runs a little bit wide. The race is on, and there are two Class B cars, Lemmer and Morrison. That's got to be resolved. Menu ducks down the inside, Plato follows. In fact, Plato's dropped back a spot there, and that's, oh, dear me, he's run wide. Mark Lemmer just pushed a little bit wide there.
And it's given Morrison, of course, the opportunity to just drive it straight by. Intelligence from the Peugeot driver, lack of it from, unfortunately, Mark Lemmer. He tried to, go wheel to wheel and cascade with the Super Tours. He shouldn't have done that.
Well, talking of wheel to wheel here, side by side, Muller down the left, Menu down the right, the red Vauxhall, the yellow Ford, and he's got him. Yvonne Muller has pulled down the inside of Alain Menu and has got through Jason Plato behind them. Not a good start for Alain Menu. And an amazing start from Gabriele Tarquini, who just took off into the distance.
Yeah, he did when he got it right, he anticipated where he wanted to be and where the rest of the field were. Came across the line, accelerating flat out. The two Fords, of course, had to deal with the two Class B cars, which they were worried about catching them at the wrong part of the racetrack and even losing more ground to Tarquini.
Menu now right in the thick of it. He's going to have to work and fight. He's got Muller in front of him and he's got Plato behind him. This fellow just took off into the distance. It was a cheeky restart, I have to say. He knew very well he had two slower cars behind him. He knew very well that no one was allowed to pass until the start-finish line, so he just said, au revoir, I'm out of here. Tarquini already with a 3-second lead after one lap. Anthony Reid behind him, then Muller behind Reid a couple of seconds further back, then Menu, Plato, and then James Thompson in the second of the Hondas. Boy, oh boy, that was using the rules, I think, right to the edge.
Yes, he did, but he did everything correctly, and he's got an advantage of 3.1 seconds. Basically, at the end of the first flying lap after the safety car comes in. But also, just think about that, Tom Christensen, a brake disc exploding. I mean, how often do you see that? I mean, the energy of that, no wonder the front of the car fell off.
Yeah, no wonder the front of the front wing actually disappeared. You said it was hard to imagine it was metal, but if it had bits of exploding red-hot brake discs flying through it, it literally would have shredded it like that.
And I suppose for Tarquini, because he's in a comfortable position, he's getting lots of air into the front of the car, into the brake ducts, into the discs, into the calipers, so his potential, following what proceeded with Christensen, it shouldn't happen.
Well, the familiar view looking back from Alain Menu's car, it's Jason Plato hunting us once again. Look at it, lunging close to us. Now there's the view from Plato. Menu ahead of us now, stalking him. Plato, is he trying? Is he what? Dear me, that was as close as you like to the Armco over the top there of Dealey.
I thought he'd taken a bite out of it. The camera suddenly just sort of turned to the barrier. I thought, has he lost it? No, he hasn't. Just was the optical effect.
It's going to take us about half an hour to coax our cameraman down from the tree, I think, at the end of that. He'll be like a scared cat. Now, down through Cascades, once again, Menu's car slipping and sliding. He's on the limit.
He seems to have a problem. Either he's got too much front grip or not enough rear grip, but he's certainly not in a balanced car, such as we've seen with Reid this afternoon.
Plato defending very slightly there in that red and white Vauxhall because he's got Thompson in the red and white and black Honda right behind him. There's the drag back up over the hill. There's Rickard Rydell climbing over the... and Matt Neal and that red Nissan just starting to get a little bit closer, but not close enough to Rydell. Plato, Thompson, old sparring partners, but old mates. There's Menu. He needs to bank points, but he finds himself in fourth. That wasn't where he planned to be. That was not a good restart from Alain Menu. Got caught napping or got caught up with the slower cars, but one way or the other, he's now got a lot of work to do. Plato absolutely with him on his boot lid. Just ahead of them, you can see Ivan Muller. Muller's opened up a handy gap already. Menu now slightly defends. Plato slightly feints. Watch me, I'm going to duck one way or the other. Down over Deer Leap, up the other side. This is where Plato shaves the camera position. Flying fastest as they go all the way through the gears, up in the top, across the strike. Now the right-hander again. Tarquini leading, Reid second, Muller third in the Vauxhall. So it's Honda, Ford, Vauxhall, then Ford, Vauxhall and Honda.
And this is a 35-lap race as well. 5 laps added on because we had 5 laps behind the safety car. So if our Menu hoping that this race might stop on lap 30, it's going to go another 8 laps, Alain.
Yeah, and he's carrying all of that ballast. He has 40 kilos of success ballast. Jason Plato, who is really bringing him under some pressure, is carrying only 20 kilos. That success ballast features from the previous race. If you did well, got a podium, you're going to get anywhere up to 40 kilos success ballast. And Menu is carrying it and maybe feeling the weight. Down into Knickerbrook, using all the curves. There's the view back. Still plenty of power in that Ford, even with the 40 kilos, and Jason Plato's car is 20 kilos lighter. It is not shy on horsepower.
No, that's basically that's the salvation that Alain Menu has got. He's just got that extra horsepower, particularly at Oulton Park, with the rises and falls. Can drag him up the hill, keep Plato at bay, gets enough gap between one corner, the next corner, under brakes, Plato's all over him, but of course the momentum has gone. Watch Thompson behind.
Yeah, that's right. Jason almost balked himself there, got a little bit too close to the back of Alain's car, and James was in there to see if he could pick up position. Now, indeed, he's putting him under real pressure.
Yeah.
Plato having to feint.
Indeed, I mean, Thompson also has got the advantage of the extra horsepower. The Honda can take the Ford on in horsepower stakes. And I mean, Plato, instead of having to focus just on Menu, now must watch his rear because Thompson will be through before he knows it.
Thompson carrying a lot of speed there. He looks very fast in that Honda down the back straight. You can see the rises and falls of the track, undulations there. Matt Neal trying to go around the outside of Ricard Rydell. Meantime, that won't work. James Thompson really starting to get his hooks into the back of Jason Plato's Vauxhall, and Alain Menu trying so hard. Once again, Thompson feints to the left. Menu thinks about covering, but thinks he's got it covered, so that's okay. Plato working extremely hard, hopping one curve, hopping another. He's got his tail up. He thinks, I'm going to get this just for the hell of it. I'm going to pick up this spot, improve my points position, because Plato, of course, is just behind his teammate Ivan Muller, I should say, in the points battle, and he wants to be the quickest Vauxhall man with the most points at the end of the year.
Well, with 6 laps of this race remaining, there we see the start of a pass. Oh, he's
through. Problem. Menu, big problem. Slowing down, Plato through, Thompson through. That was instant. What could it be?
Well, suddenly it was, I mean, it's obviously a mechanical problem. He backed out of it so quickly coming out of Druids. I thought maybe it was a rear tyre had gone down or was going soft, but it just looked as if he'd backed off. Whatever the problem is, 2 places down, and his championship position is now going to be really threatened by Anthony Reid running in 2nd place.
Well, his car's not handling happily. It's strange because Alain Menu is the acknowledged Oulton Park master. He loves this track and is normally the quickest man on it. Now he's just inside the top 6 in 6th position.
There's nothing obvious to us that we can see. The car comes around the hairpin bend that would have caused him to lose 2 places. He just seems to back out. Maybe all I can think is a brake problem, but he wasn't braking early going into the hairpin bend where you'd expect it to show. It may be a tyre problem, maybe a suspension problem. He's now under attack from his old teammate Ricard Rydell.
Well, Alain Menu said when Mark Fogarty interviewed him at the end of the first race that, well, he was pretty happy not to finish on the podium. He was planning to finish 4th so he could go into the last race, the deciding 2 races at Silverstone in a week's time, carrying no success ballast. But he's over-clubbing the point, I think, to slip back this far, so it can't be that he just had a lift there to let everybody through. No point there, and in fact he has got a problem because he's trying hard, he's kicking up the dust, he's running wide. There's something seriously wrong with the way that car's running.
Yeah, coming out of Druids at the exit, you don't want to do that. You get onto the dust, you could just lose the car. Ricard Rydell looking for an opportunity, but something seriously wrong. I have to say it must be somewhere in the handling, and I suspect it might be a deflating tyre. Maybe have a tyre losing air pressure.
Yeah, there was just a puff of smoke there as well under brakes as Menu dabbed to turn in there for Lodge Corner. Well, the word from the pits is that his engine cut out briefly. And now it's going again fine, but it's still not handling fine, that's for certain.
Well, whatever it was certainly mechanically inclined, and we had to look and see nothing. Oh, Matt Neal almost tags the back of Menu.
He's through!
That's Rydell.
Menu, right, and cuts back as well just to defend the point. Nicely done. Matt Neal realized that Rydell was going to try to fight back, so he cut to the inside of the track, holds track position. We've got to turn right now. He has the line for the next corner. Big puff of smoke there from Matt Neal and the Nissan, but he's through. Nicely played.
So Matt Neal really struggling from that poor qualifying position Saturday for both races. In fact, the mechanical misfire, they found what it was. But of course, getting up on its oil out again.
Yeah, that flag there telling us that there's something on the track surface somewhere. Oil flag or something. Could that have been what happened to Alain Menu in terms of coming around Druitt's corner there?
Well,
it doesn't look smoky and
oil
hazy.
haze everywhere, yeah. It can just all the way from before Druitt's up to Lodge Corner.
Okay, Dan Eaves side by side with James Kay. James Kay in the Class B Honda Accord. Behind them, Howell. Now this is the battle for the lead in this. You've got Eaves on the left in the Peugeot, Kay on the right in the Honda, and right behind them, Howell in the Ford Focus. James Kay's coming second in the championship. He's in that blue and white Honda, and he's side by side with Eaves as they come back up and over the hill. This is going to be fun. There's a lot of power in that Honda. Side by side, we're coming down towards the chicane, a big braking zone. These guys brake a bit earlier than the Class A cars. I think Kay's got him. Yes, he has. Strong pass.
Yes, good pass. Well worked out. Started it before Island Heaven, then did it right in the corner. Got the drive up the hill, has got a lot of power.
Howell's running wide.
Yeah, but I mean, he's still in contention. The Focus in its first race in Class B, of course, racing all year in national saloons.
Well, also bred for rallying, obviously, and pretty happy driving up the grass. Howell very much in touch with this battle. Close as you like, this far in. Remember, the Class B cars do not pit, so they've been thundering around on the same set of tyres all race long. But that's very, very strong. The Honda Accord has been the only car. Oil flags being waved there as well as we get down into Lodge Corner. So maybe there's a thin... There it is. You can see a stream of oil running up and in, and whoever pitted last is the culprit. And in fact, they are wheeling one of the Alphas into the pits, so I think the Alpha has actually launched its engine and leaked oil all the way around the circuit. It was Ferrier in the Alpha.
Yeah, well, disappointment though, and the lights go on just to let the Super Turo get through. Tarquini just can't drive his way through.
Race leader, but he can afford, with the margin he's got, to take life pretty easy, cruise through. But that, you see, once again, that has actually spoiled the race for the Class B guys a little bit. They get in the way of the Class A men sometimes, but in making way there for Gabriele Tarquini, who outbrakes himself and runs a little bit deep. Steady, Gabriele. In doing so, that's actually spoiled the race a little bit for Dan Eaves, and he's lost position to James Kay.
Yeah, and he's now under pressure from Gareth Howell in that Ford Focus. But as they come out of the Heaven Bend, everything's sort of back to status quo. Of course, the performance difference is about 10 seconds a lap on average between the Super Turo and Class B around Oulton Park. So in a 30-lap race, they're going to be lapped twice and almost a third time.
But that race for Class B lead, very, very close indeed. James Kay is coming second in the Class B Championship in the Honda Accord, second to a Peugeot, the other Peugeot 306 driven by Alan Morrison. Morrison will be a little bit frustrated because he's been out-qualified by Eaves, who's making his debut in the British Touring Car Championship. Now coming down into Lodge Corner again. That's Anthony Reid, second place Ford, just sliding there past James Kay. Then it's Ivan Muller, then it's Eaves, then it's Howell, then it's Plato, then James Thompson in the second of the Hondas, still very much in touch as they make their way through and put a lap on the Class B boys. Everyone through smoothly, and across the start-finish line, once again, there's Gareth Howell in the Ford Focus, the black car there indicating left. Good race manners, lets the faster boys through. Once again, that's cost him a little bit of track position.
I'm just coming down through Cascade, just difficult for Thompson. He wants to get through, doesn't want to be too far on the left-hand side. He'll lose speed out of the corner. Plato, of course, got the better line into the Cascade corner and able to use it to his advantage.
So Tarquini, our race leader after 33 laps. Anthony Reid, 5 seconds adrift in second, but that's pretty good for him. This is getting busy around the hairpin there. James Kay getting pushed a little bit wide, but it didn't spoil his exit.
No, but it seemed to help James Thompson. He got a better line into the corner, therefore a better exit. Now he's closed up a little bit more to the rear of Plato, and he's going to be under pressure. This is lap 33. look at the way he's pushing. And this is a battle for fourth place.
Yeah, Thompson and Plato are having they've had a race-long scrap, and now that Menu is out of the equation, they are still wedged together.
Watching on the exit of Druid, so easy. We've seen so many cars run wide on that exit. Lose the momentum. Thompson just waiting for one little error from Plato to nick that fourth place. Down the hill, up over Deer Leap, across the start-finish line.
Back across the strike. Jason Plato with Thompson right up his exhaust pipe as he has been all race long. And Jason Plato is working hard, using all the track and extra. Last lap, there's our race leader, Gabriele Tarquini, so far at least looking high and mighty. He's going down to the hairpin for the last time. All the way down the gearbox to first. Not even driving an aggressive racing line now. He knows he's got this, John.
Yes, a very nice win. Gabriele Tarquini took advantage of his pole position, pulled away from Anthony Reid, and has just really driven a wheel-perfect race. And he'll be happy. He'll be smiling as he does when he is happy. And another 15 points plus one for leading, and also one for the fastest lap. So 17 points for Gabriele Tarquini here in the feature race.
Plato, Thompson through Nick of Brook. Back up Play Hill. Half a track ahead almost, Gabriele Tarquini. That's the very fast double apex where his teammate Christensen fell off a few laps ago. But for Gabriele Tarquini, down under brakes, one more corner left. He has made it look easy.
It's been a wheel-perfect drive. I mean, that's what you expect from a professional driver. Sometimes in traffic, isn't quite that.
Well, up across the strike, and Gabriele Tarquini in the Honda takes first position. Pole position to a race win. It does not get much better than that. Anthony Reid in second position in the Ford. Valuable, valuable points for him. And Van Muller just hanging on for third position. A great drive there from Gabriele Tarquini. Extremely strong too from Anthony Reid. Tarquini taking great advantage of that rolling restart.
And very happy guys in the Honda team, and so they should be. They won here in May with Christensen in the feature race. Now Gabriele Tarquini has won the feature race in September.
So there's Anthony Reid. He won the first race. He came second in this race. And he's just having a bit of a fool around there, trying to get his seatbelt undone, or something making him very uncomfortable.
I think the small change has fallen out of his pocket.
You told me he never carried any. Alain Menu opens his car door. A very puzzling race for him. But just confirming the results, Gabriele Tarquini, he is our race winner. Anthony Reid in the Ford in second position, 3 seconds further back. Van Muller was always going to pounce if he could, and did so in the Vauxhall, third place. Jason Plato in the Vauxhall, fourth. James Thompson in the Honda. And Alain Menu just inside the top 6. Matt Neal, he's moved himself up in 7th, the independent Nissan. Ricard Rydell on a day he would love to forget. 8th position and waving goodbye to his championship hopes. Then Kay and Eve, the Class B runners, inside the top 10. To remind you, we leave Oulton Park with Anthony Reid. Now the series leader, Anthony Reid, has an 11-point lead in the championship, which means that Alain Menu in second position is going to have to fight him right down to the wire on the last 2 races at Silverstone if he is to wrest the championship from him. Everything comes down to Silverstone.